if you're under 59 and a half, you can't avoid the 10% penalty. There is not a strategy to avoid that 10% penalty.
Peter, hello, good to see you. Welcome back to everyone. Stick with us because this is a really interesting topic today. 5 steps for tax-free Roth IRA distributions. The benefit of funding a Roth IRA is the availability of the tax-free distributions in the future. Of course, as you know, you pay taxes now on your contribution or conversion in exchange for tax-free earnings down the road. I want to lay this out, Peter, because the headline may seem confusing because, of course, we think Roth, we think tax-free. So let's lay out these 5 steps. First, you have to follow the ordering rules. What does this mean?
So the ordering rules have to do with your withdrawals. For tax purposes, there's no reason to keep your contributions segregated from your conversions, right? It's sort of in the view of the IRS, it's all one Roth account. And there's no reason or benefit to say, well, this money is original contributions and this money is conversions for anything other than withdrawals. And it doesn't matter if you have separate accounts or if you aggregate them all into one. This is tracked. So the way that the money comes out of a Roth is essentially first in, first out. So your direct contributions are always going to be the first money that comes out. And then your converted money is going to be the next money that comes out. And finally, last, the earnings on either of those other sources, what grew from them, is going to be the last money that comes out. And this is important to know for some of the other things that we probably are going to talk about here, withdrawing from Roth IRAs and when and how we can do that and what the implications are. But essentially, like, there's no big reason why you need to segregate accounts. But you do need to understand that it's first in, first out when you're making withdrawals.
All right. And then next, this is a point we've hit on before very recently. Your contributions are always available tax and penalty free.
It is kind of the little known secret of the Roth IRA here is that no matter what age you are, if you've put money into a Roth and you want to take that money back out, again, the ordering rules, your contributions are always the first money that comes out. You can do that. And you've already paid tax on the money. And the IRS, the reason for this little secret, they would love that money to get back in taxable circulation a little sooner. So there's also no 10% penalty on your original contributions. But there would be a 10% penalty on any growth that comes from them or conversions within a period of time. So you do need to be aware of that. But those original contributions, again, the IRS wouldn't mind if that money came back out of the Roth and started getting taxed over and over again a little sooner. So you can pull those original contributions back out at any point in time, tax-free and penalty-free. Might be a little bit of a financial strategy there, but for the most part, we don't want to touch retirement dollars until retirement. That's their real benefit.
Especially those tax-free dollars.
Absolutely.
All right, next, watch out for the 10% penalty on converted funds. Converted funds are distributed tax-free, but that doesn't mean you can tap that money before 59 and a half without the penalty.
Yeah, when you make a conversion, you are going to pay tax on those dollars. So if you've got them in a 401k or a traditional IRA, a tax-deferred account, a conversion is the act of moving them over to a Roth, a now tax-free account. And you pay taxes along the way when you make that conversion. Now, there's a strategy called the backdoor Roth conversion. That's for higher income earners who can't put money directly into a Roth. So they put it into a non-deductible IRA day one and then convert it day two. And essentially, that's a way that you can get dollars into a Roth if your income eliminated. However, there is no backdoor Roth withdrawal. No such thing, right? So if you've got money in a traditional IRA that has not been taxed yet and you pay to do the conversion, if you're under 59 and a half, you can't avoid the 10% penalty. There is not a strategy to avoid that 10% penalty. The IRS would be savvy to that. They're pretty savvy people over there at the IRS. They've figured out how to tax each and every dollar. So you pay the tax when you make the conversion, but that does not mean that the 10% penalty goes away if you're under 59 and a half.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next, know when your earnings are tax-free. We have to meet a few requirements for those earnings to be tax-free. What are they?
Yeah, basically that the Roth has been in place for at least 5 years and you are at least 59 and a half.
Okay.
Now, that being said, in the order of operations of which account to tap into first, second, last, like Roth is one of your most valuable assets. And it's not the act of getting the dollars into the Roth that makes it so valuable. It's in the growth that happens when they're in there. So ideally, Roth would be kind of the last account that you would probably tap. So again, it's got to be in there 5 years and you've got to be at least 59 and a half. But the Roth, and there are some exceptions to this, but generally would be the last in the order of operations of the type of account that you should be tapping into.
Okay. And you mentioned that 5-year clock. So you need to understand the 5-year clock for qualified distributions of earnings. And this 5-year period can be really confusing. What do we need to know?
So essentially the Roth has to be established for 5 years.
Okay.
Before we can avoid that 10% penalty for withdrawals. But at 59 and a half, kind of all bets are off there, especially on conversions. So in other words, like if we contributed $1 to a Roth to get it started 5 years ago in 2020, and then converted over $1 million in 2023, it's not that conversion if we're over 59 and a half that starts a 5-year clock. It was the original contribution 5 years ago. And then again, at age 59 and a half, kind of all of those 5-year clocks on conversions fall off. So that the tax code is nuanced and there's a difference between contributions and conversions and what counts for this 5-year clock. But essentially, like, do you have a Roth that has been established with a contribution at least 5 years ago? And are you at least 59 and a half? If you meet those criteria and then you've done subsequent conversions, you don't necessarily have to worry about that 5-year rule.
Which is why open a Roth today, right?
Yeah.
Always get that clock started.
If you can, and you know, that'll get the clock started, as well as being some of the most valuable long-term dollars you have.
Yep, that's what I'm banking on, hoping for it. Peter, you know, this was really helpful. Again, the headline to me when I first came across this, I was like, wait, I don't understand. I kind of thought they're always tax-free, but there really are some nuances here. So if somebody wants to talk more tax strategy with you and making sure that they are doing their Roth correctly in those distributions, what's the best way to reach you?
Well, speaking of Roth correctly, just a quick note, because I've seen some things incorrect on a couple points here with Roths, Erin, is that if you are younger than 59 and a half and you are doing those conversions, don't pay the taxes with money from the conversion itself, from the account itself, because that's considered an early withdrawal and is subject to not only the taxes that you would pay, but an additional 10% penalty. And I have heard people saying that Roth conversions only make sense up until 65. I fundamentally disagree with that. You've got to be careful, especially starting around 63, but it really depends on your goals, because ultimately some people are making Roth conversions as a move for legacy planning and to minimize taxes on the inheritance that they pass to their children. And in that case, there's like no wrong time to make a Roth conversion. It's really never too early, never too late. It's a case-by-case basis, and they can make sense all the way from 25 to 95, depending on your situation and your goals. But the tax code is nuanced, Erin, and we want to make sure we're not making a mistake. So if you would like to talk over your considerations, whether or not Roths make sense, whether they are beneficial, how to quantify the benefit, feel free to give me a call, 919-300-5886, 919-300-5886. We also have this cool online calculator available at 919retired.com. It is your retirement tax bill calculator, and it kind of looks at your tax bill if you continue to defer and delay paying taxes versus if you enacted some Roth conversion strategies, and the savings can be pretty significant. So that's interesting for folks to look at. It is available for you to play with your own numbers and look at online on your own, 919retired.com. But if you've got questions about that and would like to look at how to execute the savings that's showing you, that's what we're here for. That's part of the optimized retirement plan that we put together. And you're welcome to give me a call. We can go over that. No cost, no obligation. You'll speak directly with me and we will look at your plan together. 919-300-5886. 919-300-5886.
Great. Peter, thank you so much for your time.
Always a pleasure, Erin. Thank you. Hey folks, Peter Richon here with Richon Planning. So glad that you are enjoying the podcast, Planning Matters Radio. You know, one of the tools that we've put out there that people really seem to appreciate and really are finding of value is at 919retired.com. It is your retirement tax bill calculator. If you've got any kind of retirement account, your tax deferred 401k or IRA, this is the website, this is the resource where you can go, you can plug in your own numbers, your information, you can slide the tool calculator up and down for your tax rate or your amount of savings and see what your tax bill is likely to be if you default and defer to the IRS's plan versus what you could potentially bring that tax bill down to. A lot of times it is a very significant savings. So if you have not yet, go to the website 919retired.com, run your numbers on the retirement tax bill calculator.
This has been Planning Matters Radio.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.